Man sues his wife after doctors reveal he's not the father of his 3 sons because he is infertile.
Now, a man who discovered after being diagnosed with the life-limiting illness cystic fibrosis that he couldn't be the father of his 3 sons because the condition causes lifelong infertility has told this programme the news left him feeling suicidal. Doctors reveal...
I actually dated a girl who had cystic fibrosis years ago, and it is no joke, man. It's a serious, life-threatening disease. And just getting that news alone could absolutely send someone into a mental breakdown. And then he also has the fact that he has to realize this.
In 2016 that Richard Mason couldn't be the dad to the children who are now 19 and 23. Richard sued his wife of 20 years, Kate, and they recently reached a settlement of £250,000, with her admitting she'd had an affair while the couple had been married. Well, we spoke to Richard and his...
£250,000. I don't think I even need to say that is not near enough. You'll never be able to pay this guy back. 20 years. His son's 19 and 23. Did she say there's a third one? The title says there's 3.
Current partner, Emma.
When he said to me, you've got cystic fibrosis, I immediately thought, oh my God, my sister died of that at 29. And her death was very hard for me because with cystic fibrosis, you slowly suffocate on your own phlegm, and it took her 2 years to eventually waiting for a heart and lung transplant, and then she died on the operating theatre. So immediately I was just very saddened by that. But then when the discussion then turned to fertility, and he said, look, yourself and Emma, you know, you're going to have difficulty having children because you are, as a man with cystic fibrosis, infertile. It was suddenly like being hit by a sledgehammer. I just went, oh my God. You know, you suddenly realise that your children aren't yours. So I said, well...
immediately you knew the significance of what he just said to you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Both of you?
I mean, man, imagine, like I said earlier, it's like, not only the fact that you have cystic fibrosis, which that changes everything. This isn't like a disease. This is a life-threatening disease. It's extremely serious. One of the worst ones out there. Very rare. And so you got to deal with that. And then I would imagine this sort of second thought you have is like, oh, those aren't my children. I'm infertile. You imagine 3 sons, 20 years. God. Oh my God. And it's unlikely he knew his wife ever cheated on him. Obviously she knew. She never told him. This begs the question, how many men are in current situations like this? God, I hate social media sometimes because there's this clip I saw the other day, and it was this guy going up to women and saying, have you ever been with a man and you cheated on him and he still doesn't know, or you never told him? And there were so many, yep, yes, yes, yes. So you look at this situation, he obviously didn't know, but she knew. She knew she cheated on him. And she probably knew those weren't his kids. Absolute, it's disgusting. It's repulsive. Any human being that can live with himself and do this to another person and string them along and lead them on, knowing day in and day out, these are not your children, man. And I've been with you for 20 years. An absolute demon. Disturbing.
There were medical experts in the room, and, you know, it's impossible without IVF for a man with cystic fibrosis to have a baby.
So then I said, well, you must have the diagnosis wrong because I've already got 3 boys. But I sort of was like clutching at straws there. So after that, it became a complete blur for me because it was almost like, you know, I don't know if you've ever hit your head really, really hard and it's like a ringing and you just, you can't see anything that's going on around you, you can't think of anything that's going on around you. It's almost like you just have this ringing in your ears, and it's all the implications of everything as a result of that start, you know, flashing through your mind.
Like, what kind of questions are you then immediately asking yourself?
He just wanted to go straight to phone Kate, his ex-wife, say, Kate, spare me the dignity, just tell me the truth. Was there anyone else?
When I'd managed to compose myself, it was about an hour later, I sent her a text and I said, look, this text has been in the press, but it was actually repeated verbatim from what I sent to her, and it's still on my phone now. I said to her, look, I've just been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. I'm not expecting you to be sympathetic about that, because she's a very hard person. And, but the reason I'm telling you is that the boys are not likely to have been fathered by me. Now, obviously, there's something's gone on. And if you are honest about it with me, I don't intend to sue you. And you can decide how you want to tell the boys. If you want me to be there at the same time, that's fine. But if you lie to me, then I will take action, and I'll decide how I'm telling the boys. And the immediate response I got back was, I am sympathetic, but whatever science says, those boys will always be yours.
Those boys will always be yours.
Which was
slightly different than saying you are definitely the dad. When you were diagnosed, your sons were 21 and the twins were 17, I think.
Yes.
21, 17.
When your then wife was pregnant on those occasions, did you ever suspect, have any inkling, ever think, oh, that's a bit odd, at the time of the pregnancy, through the birth, afterwards?
There was one or two occasions that after the boys were born, I thought that they didn't resemble me as much as, you know, you'd imagine that boys would.
They didn't look like you?
Well, they've got darker eyes than me. I'd have almost no body hair, and the boys have got very dark hairs on their legs and things like that. But around the time that she got pregnant, we'd been having unprotected sex for 7 years. Nothing had happened. Now, she always said to me, I have a tilted womb. I don't know what that is, but it means that it's harder for a woman to get pregnant. So we'd always thought it was her, and we'd gone for fertility treatment, or to see the GP to start the fertility process. And the GP said, well, the first thing that has to happen is you have to be tested, Mr. Mason, and then we test your wife.
He seems like a great guy, doesn't he? He seems like a good guy, and that's exactly why she wanted to keep this guy around, because he fit the good dad. You know, in evolutionary psychology, they often talk about a dual mating strategy. It's the cads versus dads. So they want a good guy, a good dad, who's going to stick around and be loyal and be able to provide resources and protection and have good characteristics and be kind and be a good person overall. So that is one side. That is the dad side. And I would say this guy fit that very well. She even said to him, you know, they will, no matter what the science says, these will always be your boys. Unbelievable. So yeah, he fit that perfect dad sort of archetype. And then what do we find out? She went, slept with this other man who was hairier, obviously. And I don't know, I'm just speculating here. Perhaps this was a more masculine dude. And that's probably what drawed her in, or pulled her in to want to mate with this guy and have his children. I mean, devastating. And that is the dual mating strategy. And that is kind of, oh, it's ruthless, man. Oh, it's so brutal. And I believe, not to like bring your guys down or anything, but one thing I remember reading is that women are more likely to step out on their husbands and cheat when they're ovulating, because they're more inclined to seek the sort of masculine alpha genetics. You know, the red pill calls it alpha fucks and beta bucks, and it's kind of cringe and corny, but it's just that's the dual mating strategy. So he was sort of fitting the alpha bucks. And oh my God, obviously, when she was ovulating, holy shit, she stepped out. And fuck, the red pill is right again, unfortunately. I mean, shit. Perfect example. Fuck.
Now, it's likely to be 3 occasions of IVF that you're going to need. They're about £5,000 a time, so it's £15,000. But after that, there's a good chance you will have a baby. So when we went home, we both were working at Barclays at the time, and she said, look, yeah, we've got our careers. We're both, I mean, yuppies was like in the 80s, a really like popular term for young people who were doing well in their careers. She said, we're both yuppies, let's just carry on with our careers and see how it goes. A few months later, she was pregnant. So I thought, oh my God, that's weird, because, you often hear of people going for treatment and then suddenly naturally get pregnant. And she said, oh, it's just one of those things. So I did feel a little bit like that's a surprise, because we go for to start the IVF, then decide not to, and she gets pregnant.
This is, I mean, you've described the turmoil, you've described it feeling like you were hit with a sledgehammer. Did you consider taking your own life?
Many times. The consultant said to me once, cystic fibrosis kicks in, and I'm one of the oldest people in the UK with cystic fibrosis, and probably the oldest.
That's what kind of throws me off. Is this guy looks fairly old. I don't know how old he is. I'm sure he's going to get into it, but it must not be that bad of a case. To my knowledge, I don't think it like kicks in. It can kick in later on in life, but you know what? I might be wrong. Maybe it can.
Oldest person ever that I know of to be diagnosed with it.
The average death is 41, and most children die of it a lot younger, like his sister as well, at 29.
So you know that you've not got a particularly pleasant future.
How did the knowledge then of discovering that your boys couldn't be yours affect the way you felt towards them, if at all?
They're still my boys, and I still think of them as my sons now, as I have been their dad.
Yeah. Do you love them as much?
You can't not love somebody simply because, in fact, even if somebody committed some sort of offence against you, if the boys had done something wrong, I'd still love them. But they've done absolutely nothing wrong. They're completely innocent in this as well. They are the victim, like I am. So, of course, yeah, my arms are still open for them, and I would dearly love them to come back into my life.
Well, 2 of them, I understand, aren't in your life because they are cross that you sued your ex-wife, Kate. It's paternity fraud, you said. You've won this court case, this settlement of £250,000 from your wife. Why would you risk your relationship with your boys when you say you are their dad, you love them as much, by going ahead with that legal action?
I always brought my boys up to be honest, stand up to bullies, never tell lies. All the time, I was divorced from her for 10 years, and all the time they were with me, all the weekends that they were round at my house, I used to say to them, look, do not keep any secrets from your mum. Be open and honest with her. Anything I do, anything I say, I don't mind your mum knowing about it, because I want an open, honest relationship with them. So I brought them up to be open, honest, stand up to what you think is right. Somebody committed a 21-year fraud against me.
But not them. And now you've lost 2 of them. They're not in your life.
But the point is, how do I allow somebody who has committed something like that against me, my ex-wife, to just go off scot-free? Because there are many times...
Because the risk is you lose 2 of them, and that's what's happened.
But they're grown men.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't lose 2 of them. I don't know what's wrong with these 2 boys, these 2 men, I guess, who are apparently mad at him now and are like trying to cut off contact with him. That's pretty whack. That's pretty lame, and quite immature, honestly. Yeah, I would imagine the mother is in these boys' ears and feeding them a bunch of bullshit. And you know what? This guy's in the right. Absolutely. But you know what? Those young men who are, I guess, cutting off contact with this guy, they're also behaving quite immaturely. If I was in that position, I would absolutely understand why he is doing what he is doing.
They're grown men. They understand that I have to take action against it.
Yeah.
In families, when there's been tragedy or anything like this, history tends to repeat itself through generations. And Richard wants to ensure that those boys don't think this is normal behaviour.
She was completely denying that I wasn't the biological father. So up until the court case only a few weeks ago, she was still saying, even with DNA evidence, I'm sorry, the DNA evidence must be flawed.
And the court case
You're the
has
biological
absolutely
father.
settled that. Yeah.
So if
Look at the absolute gaslighting. The truth is right in front of everybody. She's still denying it. Oh, you can't make it up.
I am the biological father, those boys all have a risk of having cystic fibrosis. They all need to tell their insurance companies, they need to tell their potential partners, their children might have cystic fibrosis. I wouldn't even be allowed to meet them because people with cystic fibrosis cannot meet other people with cystic fibrosis because they cross-infect.
Right.
So by going to, via my solicitor, finally, she then, a few weeks ago, said, actually, I accept. You're not the biological father. The boys have got no chance of having cystic fibrosis from me. I can meet them now, and they're free of knowing that they've got a potential genetic disease.
Understood. Do you know who the father is?
I've no idea.
Why have you offered a £5,000 rewards to find out?
I was toying with that as a strategy because
What a G. You got to do that. Offered a 5,000 reward. This guy isn't playing games, and I love it. I wish he could have got more money. I wish he would have attacked her more. That's a super fucked up thing to do. I mean, that is next level despicable behavior. And this guy, I hope he's doing well, man.
what I feel like is 2/5 of my life, 20-odd years of my life, have been a complete lie. The person I thought I was, I'm not. The relationship I had with the boys is not the same as I thought it was. A wife that I thought was loyal, but I had to divorce because we didn't get on, was not. So what I want to do is sit down with this guy and say, were you there in their life? When I was watching them play football, were you there? Did you buy them Christmas presents? How did you deal with the first pregnancy? You know, did you know about the pregnancies? Were you there for the second pregnancy?
You want to meet him and you want to ask those questions?
Yeah, you want to find out what happened. It's almost like you've been in a coma for 20 years and you wake up and you think, God, this guy is a significant participant in my life that I...
Wow, I just realized 3 sons. Different ages. I think she said there were twins that were 17, and then there's another one that was 20 or so. So obviously, oh my goodness, this happened multiple times. It's not like this is just one child she had. You know, there's 3, and they are all different ages, years apart. You know what that means? This occurred more than once. So, like, she continued to get knocked up by this guy while she was still married to him. Dude, what? And the other guy must have known. Oh, my goodness.
I've never met.
Okay.
And I have a desire to do that before I die.
Do you know when that will be?
My lungs have deteriorated about 15% in 2 years. And that level of deterioration may be 6 to 10 years.
Thank you very much for coming on the programme. We appreciate it. We wish you all the best as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually think there was like a miracle drug that came out for people with cystic fibrosis within the last like 5 years or so. So I don't know, maybe this guy was able to get that, but that I believe is a huge breakthrough when it comes to cystic fibrosis. But this is a devastating scenario here. Let's look at some of the comments here. Highly suspect the real father has absolutely no clue. It's also possible there are multiple fathers. Yeah, that's true. I'm a woman, but I applaud him for suing her. What do you mean? Why do you need to say you're a woman? Like that's some sort of like pre-qualifier. Like I'm a woman and I understand. Well, no shit. So are you saying that other women, are you saying you're the exception There would be women in general would not applaud him for doing this. I don't get it. Why do you need to say that? Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, you better applaud him for suing her. Yeah, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you shouldn't be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm a woman, but I applaud him for suing her. What does that have to do with anything? I surely hope so. Goodness. All right, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed that, yeah, leave a like and subscribe.